not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about us. And what we've always thought is that white America equal the same interest as us. That is not true. We must now be concerned.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
I might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Tuned in to the End of the Bench Media. Media that's bold, black, and beautiful.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's your man H-Rap coming at you live and direct as I always do. Thank you for tapping in. Before I start the program, I need you to smash up that like button. I need you to share the link that you have or the notification that you got from YouTube. Tell a friend to tune in. It is important. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I am Brian H-Rap B. Williams. This is Build and Destroy on End of the Bench Media. Thank you again for tapping in. As I do every week, I will thank my parents, John and Dolores. Without them, there is no me. Without me, there is no End of the Bench or Build and Destroy. And we wouldn't be sitting here today. And thank you to my parents. Without them, I love them both. Now, what I want to do is today, crime and punishment is the topic of the day on this episode, crime and punishment. We are in an election year, and it seems as if we still are arguing about nonsense. We could argue about Republicans and Democrats. We could argue about celebrities being right. We could talk about Puff Daddy. We could talk about all that stuff. All that stuff has its time and place. But as this situation winds down, I think it's like 42 days left in this election cycle. So what I would like us to do is to, at the worst, have some form, shape, form, or fashion of a game plan after the election, no matter who wins, because what we fail to realize, as I see on social media, as I see in the midst of random conversations, whether I'm a part of them or I'm overhearing them, well, I'm rarely a part of them anymore. But when I'm overhearing people speak about this election cycle, people seem to be focused on if Vice President Harris or former President Donald J. Trump is going to be the next president. And all you need to be worried about is the primary thing you need to worry about is how many people do the people who think like you or who thoughts are aligned with you in the House of Representatives, and how many people are in the Senate. Then you need to know who's your governor, mayor, city council, school board president, and so forth and so on. We need to focus on us. Today today the big story is a brother in Missouri who may be executed. Hopefully not. He's in his attorneys are in the Supreme Court to put a stay of execution on a crime he was convicted of 20 years ago. And these are the things. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When you have a flawed criminal justice system and it is designed to make money. I will show you a video a little later about how your body. I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to show you a video of how our bodies, whether you are, no matter what part of the diaspora you're from, or even if you're not part of the African diaspora, you are in jeopardy and you are being targeted, and they're making money off you coming and going. And what we have to do is fix this. Is it crime and punishment? It used to be crime and rehabilitation, being a criminal justice major. That's one of the things that we talked about my freshman year of college. It's no longer crime, and it's no longer crime and punishment. I mean, crime and rehabilitation is crime and punishment. When it's crime and punishment, it is a profit to this. And if it's a profit, why are we allowing people to profit from us? I do believe the conversation has been, for the last 30 years, the conversation has been wrong. The reason I say 30 years is that that's when that crime bill was signed by signed by William Jefferson Clinton, president at the time, and it was put through the House of Representatives bunch of our people in there, and the Senate, and primarily it was probably, I think, Karen Mosley Brown at that time was the only black person in the Senate, and she was a woman. So we're looking at situations where the people with true power are up under the president. They hold the purse strings. They issue the edicts for the stimulus checks and things of that nature. All the stuff that you get a president credit for, he's not doing those things. He's not. Executive orders, those are his ideas. That's something that he said, enough of this, and he signs an executive order. And guess what? The very next president can undo that. So what we need to do is stop getting bills passed and get laws passed, like the affirmative action bill, the crime bill. It's just a bill. We can get that knocked out of the way, just like they did. It took them 54 years to get rid of Roe versus Wade. We can start working on those kinds of things. We can get the Civil Rights Act passed into law. Meaning it's a part of the Constitution of the United States of America. The 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voters' Right Act, and laws are two different things, and we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to stop this. But first and foremost, we must stop having our young men and women that even target our young ladies now, which is even more criminal. They're targeting our young ladies now. And what we have to do is make sure that these for-profit prison systems are not to make sure they get money coming and going. They get money for housing our young people, and then they get money. Then they make money. I'll show you a video a little later again of how they're making money once our young men and women, and even our people in our community. Let's just say that the people in our community are being incarcerated, and it's profit both ways. Profit for housing them, and then they get more money when they're in there. We're going to talk about these things, and this is what we need to do. See, it's easy to talk about the police brutality and things of that nature. Add that to the list. That does not mean move it off the list. The list is infinite. The problems that are in our country are infinite. So it's not like a sheet of notebook paper. We can run out of 32 lines and oh man, I gotta go. No, we got a notebook. We got a phone book size notebook, and we have a couple of addendums to that. So what I want us to do is make sure when we are voting, we are also complaining about something specific. I'm going to task the people who view this program with this. How about this? How about finding a pothole or a vacant lot in your community or a street light that's out? And I need you to organize 10 to 12 people in your community between today and election day. Just 10 to 12 people to call your state rep every week. Or in Chicago, it's called an alderman. We have, in addition to state reps and city council people, we have people called aldermen. If you're familiar with the show Good Times, his name was Alderman Davis, and that was the guy who controlled the community from a political standpoint. What I want us to do is find out who's the precinct captain or whatever it is in your community, whatever you call it. I want you to call that person. Find a flaw in your community. What, again, not enough trash receptacles, not a stop sign on the wrong corner, or not a stop sign on the right corner where children are crossing. Every single day, I want you and those 10 people to call that person and get a stop sign put up so you can see the power that you actually have. If enough of us do that, once you see the power that you actually have, then at that point you'll realize after election day, I can call that person and then I can go down the chain. What I want you to do again for the umpteenth time, I want you to download the 5 Calls app. The 5 Calls app. It will put you in contact. It will find the phone number for the people that I'm asking you to call. 5 Calls app. It is free. You don't have to get any subscriptions. I've never received the email from 5 Calls, anything. You won't get spam. You won't get anything. It will just give me it gave me the phone number to Tammy Duckworth, Dick Durbin, Danny Davis, mayor, whoever the mayor is, and the governor. Those are the people who and I have the ability to call them as frequently as possible. They even give you their local number and the number to their offices in the actual House of Representatives in DC. This is the beauty in this app. So I need us to call and find something wrong with find something that's disturbing in your community. I know in certain communities, because I've lived in those communities, and this is before I received that information. I drove around a pothole. I guarantee you, I drove around that pothole for about 6 years, and I said, man, they need to fix this. But nobody. I never said, let me call Walter Burnett and get him to fix this. That's who was controlling my neighborhood at that point. Walter Burnett. I still live in his district, so and I know him to the point where I don't get along with him, but he still works for me. At the end of the day, I voted for him, and dot dot dot. See, this is what we have to do. We must add words to the triple dots behind our complaints. Oh man, they're not gonna do anything. Yeah, they'll do anything because you don't ask them to do anything. I wouldn't do anything either. If you gave me upwards to 100K a year, and I don't have to do anything for, but around August, hand out book bags, something that your children already has, and then around Halloween, hand out candy, and then in Thanksgiving, hand out turkeys, and then in Christmas, hand out hams and Christmas trees and hams, and do something for New Year's, and then every 4 years you're gonna renew this contract. And if you live in Illinois, if you get elected twice, you get pension until you die. So now you got pension, 401k, and whatever job that you ever had. So yeah, I wouldn't do anything for you either. And that's just the bottom line. People always do things that people don't only do what you expect, not what you expect. And since we got this trope in the Black community about politicians just lie, they don't do nothing but lie. Well, you never ask him to tell you the truth. You know, every few years you got people like Jill Stein and the Green Party that show up to be president, but you never see anybody in the Green Party for the House of Representatives. You never see anybody in the Green Party for Senate. You never see anybody for the Green Party for mayors. None of this. Just every 4 years be a disruption, and magically they all key towards one party. I'm not attached to any party, but if all you do is attack one party, this makes me believe you're in bed with the other party. See, it's I think it's at least 50 years the Green Party has been in play, and I haven't seen any Green Party people in any other seat, and you're just running for president, which makes me believe it's a joke. And then, well, just send us some money and we're gonna do this. Nothing ever happens. Well, just send us some money and we're gonna do that, and nothing ever happens. So this makes me believe that you are full of it and you have no intention on making things better. If that's your goal, then fine. That's fine. It's okay. Just do it. Now, the topic of the day again is prison, crime and punishment. This is big business. The last conversation I had with someone who was formerly incarcerated about this topic, it was in 2001 when my late cousin Vincent Williams was released from a prison here in Illinois, Southwestern Prison in East St. Louis, Illinois. And we just I don't even know what brought it up. We had a conversation. He let me know that each prisoner in the prison system in the state of Illinois gets $40,000. The prison gets $40,000 per man. Now that was in 2001. 2001, we're talking about 23 years ago. 23 years ago, 40,000. So just extrapolate it, and just traditional inflation to that. So they're probably making about $80,000, $90,000 a person. A person. So your child, brother, sister, niece, nephew, cousin, aunt, or uncle, or hey, some people, even their grandparents, are being incarcerated and put in there for $40,000. What could that $40,000 do for each student in every school in the United States of America, in the state of Illinois? Forget the United States of America. We're just going to focus on Illinois for now. This is a United States of America problem, but I don't know the statistics for California, California, New York, Washington, Florida, or Texas. Any of those places, the big places, the hot spots in America, the corners and the coast, border to border, coast to coast. I don't know their numbers, but I do know right here in Illinois, at At one point, the last time I had a conversation, $40,000 a man, and I'm just gonna push it up at a minimum to $80,000 a person. What if they were spending $80,000 per student? Our children will be advancing, but it's not advantageous to them for them to advance. That's why at one point in my lifetime, in my adult lifetime, you used to have to wait on rap music to come on. Now you have to wait on other music to come on. At one point, you couldn't say damn on the radio. You couldn't say anything that was close to profanity. Now I've heard mentions of oral sex. I've heard mentions of anal sex. I've heard mention of gay sex, which if that's your get down, that's cool. But if it wasn't cool for me to hear it as a younger person, why is it cool for my children to hear it? But again, that's not the radio's fault either. You know whose fault that is? That's our fault. If you were born before 1985, if you were born from 1995 to now, that's your fault. That's your fault. If you were born from 1995 going back to the beginning of time, it's your fault. Oh man, the radio station do what they want to do. No, they don't. No, they don't. We get done. We allow them to do what they want to do. Again, I've mentioned this before. It was this television show when Fox was a brand new network. The biggest show on that network was Married with Children initially. Then The Living Color took over, and that's when it took off. But that's neither here nor there. The biggest show during this period was Married with Children. One woman, one elderly white woman. I'm not even call her elderly. I think she's about my age now, so middle-aged white woman. And the state of Michigan started a letter writing campaign. And she wrote Ford, and she wrote General Motors, she wrote the beer companies, and she wrote the network. And Married with Children was almost taken off air with one person. So how could one person write a series of letters and almost get the #1 show taken off a network? Meanwhile, we're allowing anybody and their mama to say anything they want to say on the radio. See, when I was a young person, NWA was considered lewd and risque. They were the most dangerous group. That was their moniker, the most dangerous group in the world. And our parents went nuts. But you know what? Here's the thing. NWA sold 1 million copies of that album and didn't get any radio play. Guess what? NWA had to make a song called Respect Yourself in order to get played on the radio and played on the video stations. Their biggest songs were not being played on the radio or the television. You know why? Because my parents and my grandparents and the elders in my community were not having it. You had to listen to it through your headphones at the time. Y'all call it earbuds now. That's how you had to listen. That's how you had to consume it. And I was one of those consumers. And yes, indeed, I was enjoying all of it. I'm here to tell you. I might play some when the show over. You know what I mean? But that was on me. That was something you couldn't play it in my mother's house. My mother never wanted to be my friend. My mother didn't care if I was her friend. Guess what? God rest her soul. My mother didn't care if I liked her. Because you know what? She understood that if she stopped liking me, I would die because I couldn't afford to feed myself at that time. So at the end of the day, and I'm not saying my mother would have let me die or starve, but she was in control. And what we need to do is regain control because we've allowed outside influence, and then we blame influences. So we blame influence. Guess what was around then too? Porn. Porn was around, but you weren't watching no porn around, and wasn't nobody watching no porn in nobody's house. You couldn't even say dag in my house. So how is it that here we are 35, 40 years later, and we're allowed to say anything and do anything we want? And that's how our children end up in these houses of restitution. These people are pimping our children. They are pimping us, and they are pimping our community. At the end of the day, we are allowing it. Look, don't get me wrong. I understand that there are decisions made in this lifetime. I've made a ton of poor decisions, and by the grace of God, nobody even knows about them. And only people know, but guess what? The people who know about them, they're no longer doing the same foolishness I was doing, or they're no longer here with us. So it is actually, I might be lying. But so I'm not going to say it's on the parents, but the environment is on the parents. If we need to recreate an environment in which our children are afraid to do these things, and also recreate an environment so our children will have options to do other things versus the nefarious activities that are presented to them. That's the thing. That's the difference in 1985 or 84 and 2024, 40 years later. If you did something nefarious in 1984, it's because you probably wanted to and you were influenced by the community and you snuck around and did it. And you had to double sneak around because you had to sneak around your parents' friends. And now you got people. I have literally had this conversation. Why did you put my child out of your house for smoking weed? I said, I ain't put your child out of your house for smoking weed. I asked them to put the cigarette out because I don't smoke in my house. And the parent literally told me this. Oh, I thought you put him out for smoking weed. You could put him out for smoking cigarettes because his weed be better than mine. That's an actual conversation I have had in my house. I've had that conversation. So instead of trying to be our children's friends and buddies and putting them on the skate train that's going to push them right into the penitentiary, what we need to do is reestablish community first and foremost. How about getting to know the people who live to the left and the right, across the street and up the block? Now you're creating a community because guess what? Now your children are less likely to do wrong. If they're less likely to do wrong in front of you, then it'll knock it down a chance when they're away from you. Again, a lot of us did things that we never got caught for doing, and that's a blessing. But what we have to do is stop blaming the man because we're not taking time and raising our children because we know the man is out there. I ain't about to blame God for rain because I know in the fall and in the spring it's going to rain. I understand that. And oh, it's raining. No, it's going to rain. So we know we are in a war outside. Our community is going to be attacked. But guess what? If you're going to buy food, clothing, you're paying your internet bill, you're paying your phone bill, you are paying taxes. And those taxes are going to repairing your streets, after school programs, proper houses of education, institutions of education, institutions of higher learning, and things of that nature. That's what we need to do. See, that's how we fight the system from a grassroots perspective. And then what we also do is fight the prison system. Instead of putting all that money into prisons, you're going to put all that money into our children. And the problem is this. The problem is simply this. A lot of these suburban towns and southern Illinois towns and rural towns where you live, they are being run. They're kept alive by prisons. And what you need to do is talk to your politicians about bringing some natural energy in there or some other way, because we ain't sending our kids there anymore. Those prisons are going to have to shut down. Either that or y'all can start locking up people from other communities because we're going to have to do our thing to keep our children out of the penitentiary, give our children other options. Stop misdiagnosing our children and putting them in the special ed and things of that nature when they don't need that. It's just we haven't taken the time to educate our youth, to matriculate into universities, and then matriculate into being instructors who know the people in our communities. And we can create incentives for our community for a teacher to live inside of that community so we can recreate a community instead of just a neighborhood. See, a community has a system whereas it's self-sustaining. The community I was raised in, not the one I was born in, but even the one I was born in, the community I was raised in on the lower north side of Chicago, we had our own grocery store, Terry's. We had our own fast food joint, Jerry's. We had our own barbecue joint. We had our own pizza joint. These are Black-owned institutions. Terry's, Jerry's, Farmer Brown. We didn't go to McDonald's because you know what? It was people in our community feeding us. And that's what we need to do. We need to recreate a system to where there is a Mr. White. There is a Terry's and Jerry's, and we need to recirculate that. So now we're not begging for jobs. And then guess what? While we are putting the best athletes in America are coming from urban areas for football, baseball, basketball. They're coming from urban areas. So we need to put pressure on the coaches and say, hey, man, you need to educate these young people so when they get old enough and get these 150, 200 million, 300 million, and like Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics, you need to have him saying, hey, you need to create something that makes textile so we can make suits and ties and shirts and things of that nature. So we could become a self-contained unit. All we need is like 4 of those factories in the United States of America. 4. Because if you got one in LA, you got one in New York, you got one somewhere in the South, somewhere in the Southwest, and 5, and one in the Midwest. Guess what? That's what we primarily in the South, contrary to popular belief. It's not more people below the Mason-Dixon line than it's more people below the Mason-Dixon line than out South. I mean, they're out West, Midwest, and Northeast. Trust me, it is. The major portion of our community is in the South. So guess what? We can create something. How about this? We don't even do that. We just make those joints in the South, get those people. They make them black-owned institutions, run our people in there, get those people working, and guess what? Pay them a fair wage, and now they're buying clothes, and we're making our own clothes throughout the country. We must create an opportunity for ourselves. And then we also, on top of that, we talk to the aldermen and the state representatives and the state senators and the U.S. senators and the governors and so forth and so on, so they can get the funding that they need and they can become an entity. So we don't have to wear Levi's. We can wear Soul Brother jeans or something like that. And we could do the same thing. We could partner with, we could have these young men, just like Michael Jordan. Jordan brand is made by Nike, but it's not of Nike anymore. You don't see the Nike emblem on Jordan brand because it's its own entity, much like General Motors is the company and Chevy and Buick are the subsidiaries. They are part of General Motors, but they're their own standalone company. You can do that. I don't want my own shoe deal. I want my own shoe. And then you make the shoe and we 50-50, and then you put the shoe throughout the country. That's what we need to be focusing on. We no longer need to be focusing on these things because these other things are the reason our young people are going to these prisons. And don't think they don't tie in. If you see, the thing is, we keep asking for jobs instead of creating jobs. And when you ask for a job, what you're really doing is asking for hope. And how could you possibly ask for hope from the very people who put you in the situation you're in now? The people who are originally here that look like us, we'll call it Folsom people from West Africa. Folsom. That's why you got Folsom prison, and that's why you got Folsom, Colorado. You got Folsom, Arizona, and you got the Folsom prison in California. That's why. That's just not a name they pulled out of their behinds and said, that's what it is. No, understand. 15,000 years ago, our people were here. So they always tell you it was 20 million people. No, it was a bunch of us here already. And that's why you have ancestors like Sister Harriet Tubman that had never been off that plantation, but somehow she knew how to get to Philadelphia because you got ancestors that had navigated the terrain and just like your grandmother told you about the South and your grandma and your mother told you about back in the day and your uncles told you about back in the day. They were doing the same thing back then, but they were doing it at a higher rate. It was called a Doma and a Jolly. A Doma is a person who has sworn to truth and passed down facts, nothing but facts. A Jolly will give you something he'll give you a story that's entertaining, and he'll embellish a little bit, but those same stories allowed our Sister Harriet Tubman and hundreds and thousands of others. So when you hear jackasses like these dumbass rappers talking about slavery was a choice, see, they could have just shut up. Wasn't no choice. They were being held in bondage, and I don't know about you. I don't know if I try somebody who took my father and tied a horse to one of his arms and tied another horse to the other arm and ripped him in half. I ain't too quick to try those people. But I know I forgot everybody's super Negroes and they could fly and they bulletproof and whip proof and all that. So I know you would have done it. And it's real easy to look through the vision of somebody in 2024, but take yourself back 175 years and see how tough you are. Hey, there are people in this country that did rebel, but it's a little tougher to do it alone. But back to the point. Let's not get into that. Let's talk about this. These prisons, these people who are making money off of us. Do you understand the whole prison system was created to put us in bondage? It was created to put us in bondage. Most of the laws that you see today came about around 160 years ago. The emancipation, the end of the war was 161 years ago. So those laws came in effect. How about this? Loitering was not a thing before 160 years ago. Loitering was not a thing because the 13th Amendment says slavery is illegal unless you break the law. So they would leash your black behind. They would incarcerate you for loitering after kicking you off after you saved the country. And then they say you've been standing around longer than 30 days. You go to the penitentiary. Then when you get to the penitentiary, they're gonna leash you out. Now that I'm saying that, what I'm going to do is show you the video that I'm speaking of. And before I show you the video, I want to thank the people who are in the chat room and thank the people who listen in the background. If you're listening, hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tap in. And the people who are in the chat room, I got my man Tran Brown. I got Poetic Sense, Pastor Dodd, Joe, Rated Kev. Thank y'all for tapping in. Really appreciate it. And the people who listen in the background, I got my man Anthony Knox. Yeah, I'm calling you Anthony all the time, dog. You ain't never gonna be Knox anymore. But seriously, on the serious side, I'm gonna show you this video to accentuate what I'm talking about these prisons, so you can understand your vote counts and all the rest of the stuff that you've been fed is a lie. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. It's 4 minutes 30 seconds. Right back.
Caught off guard by something recently. It has to do with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery. The amendment reads, in part, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, shall exist within the United States." All of that made perfect sense to me, minus this one part, except as a punishment for crime. Basically, that says you can punish a criminal with slavery. And we do, all over the country, all the time. It's called prison labor. We're all sort of familiar with the idea. Prisoners making license plates is the classic example, but that is the tip of the iceberg. Across the country, convicts do work in carpentry, sewing, mining, packaging, firefighting, telemarketing, fish farming, and artisanal cheese making. That last one is why this is back in the news. Whole Foods took some flack for selling felon-made cheese, and at a pretty hefty markup. Now, according to the American Civil Liberties Union, this isn't inherently a problem.
Most prisoners want to work, and jobs for prisoners can be a very positive thing.
That's David Fauti from the ACLU's National Prison Project.
But given the vast power inequality between prisoners and their employers, there's also a real potential for exploitation and abuse.
That potential is grounded in the fact that this really is slave labor. Inmates can be forced to work as long as they're deemed fit, and can be punished if they don't, including, in some cases, with solitary confinement. And then there's the question of money. We don't have to pay prisoners a dime for their work. Some states do require that prisoners are paid, but courts have consistently ruled that any pay is, quote, by the grace of the state. In other words, just to be nice. Meaning, more broadly, that prisoners are highly vulnerable.
Prisoners can't unionize. If they're injured or killed on the job, in most states they're not protected by workers' compensation. So all of this creates a situation where the usual checks on employer exploitation and abuse simply don't operate.
This all means that there's no consistency in what prisoners are paid for those cheese wheels and telemarketing calls. Pay scales range from nothing to around the federal minimum wage, but many are paid under $1 an hour. And that can give the state what Fauti calls a perverse incentive to keep the prison population high.
Last year, when California was ordered to release some prisoners to relieve overcrowding, the state actually argued against it on the ground that it would reduce the state's access to prisoner labor.
Things get more uncomfortable when you consider that America does not have a great track record when it comes to prison labor. After the Civil War, southern states struggled with a sudden lack of slave labor, thanks to the 13th Amendment. And their solution, in part, was to use that same clause, except as a punishment for crime, as a loophole. Many states passed broadly racist vagrancy laws that allowed authorities to pick up blacks on charges like loitering, imprison them when they couldn't pay fines, and lease them out en masse to places like plantations. In other words, the South got its slaves back. This system of convict leasing wasn't totally abolished until 1941. Back here in 2015, though, what are we supposed to think about prison labor? Prisoners are treated light years better today, whether they're working or not. But there are also so many more of them. Our prison system has exploded since the 1980s, giving America far and away the biggest prisoner population in the world. And that population is racially skewed in the extreme. Around 40% of prisoners are black, even though only about 13% of the country is overall. The 13th Amendment, the abolition of slavery, that happened 150 years ago. And now, 150 years later, we have this prison system instead. And according to David Fauti, we should think hard about why we do.
The purpose of incarceration should be to protect public safety, not to provide a captive labor force for the government.
For more Seeker stories, be sure to check out this next episode on the number of innocent people exonerated after being on death row.
And then speaking of someone, it's a man today fighting for his life on death row. We hope that the United States Supreme Court, even though it seems to be stacked against us again, I hope they do what's right and let that man live, because DNA evidence says that he did not stab the person. They found DNA of someone else in 1998. So what we need to do is, again, we should have been on the phones nationwide, 60 million people on the phones, going, calling people, downloading that 5 calls out, getting in contact with people, having them fight for this man, because he's 2 governors deep and he's about to die any day now. He's up for execution on a shoddy case at best. And who is the state to say, who is it for a state to say when it's time for you to die? Especially in a situation to where we don't even know the truth. Thank you, Theodore. Thank you. All right. But as you see, the system is skewed against us. That's why we talk about criminal justice reform, police reform. But what we have to do is reform our communities. Hope is the number one thing that we need to reinstitute in our schools and our communities and our neighborhoods, because the community and the neighborhood are 2 separate things. Look it up. You'll be shocked. Now, what I also want you to understand is this. We need to put our children in a better situation. And that's our fault. Again, we have a system, we have a monster outside attacking our children. There's something out to get us. As you saw, 13% of the population, or 40% of the prison population. That means we're being over-policed. Don't be dumb enough to believe that black on black crime statistic. See, we always hurting each other. Don't be stupid enough to fall for the tropes that they give you. Because next time somebody mentions to you black on black crime, it's only one way to determine if something is good or bad. You determine if something is good or bad with a multitude of examples. What I mean is, I can't tell you I'm the best cook in the world and you've only eaten my food. So when you find out that there's a thing called redlining, and it is more than 100 years old, and redlining forced black people to live in certain areas throughout the country. You traditionally don't move outside of these areas, or we're not going. It's technically no longer in existence, but it's still in existence. Wink, wink. If you say, I can only live here, I can only live in the near north side of Old Town, I can only live on the west side of Chicago, I can only live on the south side of Chicago, and other people are able to move freely and even move into our neighborhoods and live comfortably or uncomfortably because they're impoverished as well, but they move into our communities, then okay, we're stuck right here. So who are you going to get into altercations with? Those people in those little boxes. But when you find out 89% of the people from white communities are hurting those people, and you're able to move around. So hold it. That means not only are you hurting the ones that are around you, that means you going back to your community to hurt those people. How about that? So isn't it that about the same? And so forth and so on and so on and so on for every culture in America. So when somebody says black on black crime to you, ask them, what are you comparing it to? And if they can't compare it to anything, well, I ain't talking about that. I'm just talking about us. Well, guess what? You're not talking about us. You're repeating what some buffoon on the television told you. And then you want to sound smart, because if you are listening to something, even this guy, don't believe nothing I say. Go to FBI.com and look up crime statistics, black on black crime, and look at how close everybody else is. And they moving around freely and we're stuck in one area. And then you get the answer. You ought to take my word for it. Oh man, H-Rap, man, he be on this stuff. No, I might be lying too. So guess what? Because I may be lying, I need you to look into me too. I ain't asking anybody to trust me. I'm just going to present you with information, and then you decide if the information is valid. And if it's valid, clearly it's valid, because I got a solid following and I got a solid amount of people are respecting what I say. So obviously I must be saying the same. We must be saying correct things. But what I want you to understand is this. We need to get this criminal justice system back to the word and make it justice. But the only way we can do that is to solidify our communities, make sure our schools are open. Make sure our school has quality instructors, quality people who care about our children, not people who are looking and seeing a child come to that school and see you doing C-level work and go, well, that's the best he can do. No, 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 no. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about he might have been hungry. He came from a rough situation. It wasn't rougher than it was 100 years ago. I can all but guarantee you it wasn't rougher than coming to school, not knowing if there was a group of people that's going to be behind you and try to kill you to and from school. I can guarantee you it wasn't that bad. So, with that being said, we need to make sure the instructors in our institutions are quality and actually care. That means we need to be introducing our young people to being educators. The kid and the child in the classroom who wants to help his classmate all the time and he's always talking, get that kid and inspire that child to be a teacher. The argumentative cat, much like myself, who would argue with a brick wall. Maybe I should have been an attorney. Maybe. Probably not. But that's what I want you to understand. There are certain qualities about every child that can matriculate into something positive in this community, border to border, coast to coast. One of the biggest issues that we need to do is introducing children to opportunities. Opportunities create hope. Hope reduces your opportunity for the instance of doing crime. When you got a whole lot of hope, you're going, hold it. If I do this, I might not have that opportunity. But if you are in survival mode, you can't tell a young person who's thinking, I may never get the opportunity to ... Instead of thinking, if I do that, I'm never going to be anything. We must revert to the way our parents raised us. And I don't have any children. Well, you got nieces, nephews, and cousins. You got neighbors, you got friends. And if you don't have no friends, neighbors, nieces, nephews, cousins, it sucks to be you. But most of us have that. And if you just don't care about humanity, it truly sucks to be you, because guess what? If you don't care, at some point, one of those children that you overlook and that you denigrate and that you dismiss might just rob you or might just hurt you. How about that? So you really, when you talk to young people, not talk at them, you care about your community, not just living, existing in it, and you want a community and not just a neighborhood, you're doing yourself a favor. You're doing yourself a favor, because guess what? I have yet to see anybody in this world get younger every day, get closer and closer to senior citizenship every day, whether you're 8 or 80. Every day you live, you're getting closer to being old. So start thinking about your life as you get older. Start thinking about the young people in your community. So maybe throw the young people a little change. Hey man, clean up my yard. Bam. And next thing you know, they're realizing their opportunities versus criminality. That's what we have to do, because as you see, they got it set up to continue to get paid off us into perpetuity. We can reverse this though. Why do you think they got this thing? They have a mission called by what is the Heritage Foundation, and it's called Project 2025. Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation also are the people who stripped away the funding from education 44 years ago when President Reagan instituted 60% of the Heritage Foundation's plans. So this isn't new. So when all that crack got shipped into our neighborhood and all those semi-automatics got shipped into our neighborhoods, that's what opened those doors. Because when you remove vocation from school, now you don't have any woodwork. Now you don't have any plumbing. Now you don't have any electricians. Now you don't have any electronics. Now you don't have what we call technology now. Now you don't have any auto mechanics. Now you don't have any tool and die, making screws. We're going to always need screws, people, whether you believe it or not. We're going to always need things to bind things. The people who make air ducts. I have a sheet metal certificate personally. Never used it, but I have it. These are the things that are missing, because guess what? They need those things now. They need those things now. So guess what? If we start, and guess what happens? If we take some of these older gentlemen who are retiring right now from the electric world and get them certified as instructors and have them teach young people how to be electricians, how to be plumbers, get them into unions, creating hope, and let them know that it's a glorious life being an electrician. It's a glorious life being a plumber. It's a glorious life being the heat and air conditioning person. Just imagine if you lived in Arizona, Nevada, Texas, anywhere in the southern part of the United States of America, and you were fixing heating and air conditioning. If you fixing heating and air conditioning in Chicago, you living like a king. If you fix it in the South, fixing heating and air conditioning in a place like Houston, Texas, where the humidity is insane, they probably think you walk, they might carry those dudes around town. But our children don't know these things because they continue. People like the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 with that 1,000, this thing is a 925-page manifesto to shut down schools, defund schools, put people in situations to where, as if you're teaching Black history with this, which is why history is important. History is important because if you see something has been done, that means you know you can do it. And if Dr. King can get a PhD by the time he's 26, hell, you can get one by the time you're 30. You get one by the time you're 30, right? If Dr. King can do it under the tyranny that he was under, when you have people like Ralph Bunche, when you have people like Adam Clayton Powell, when you have people like Stokely Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, when you have people like Dr. Huey P. Newton or Dr. Condoleezza Rice, or it's a Dr. Henry Black, Dr. John Henry Clark. These people are either 80, 90 years old now or no longer with us. And if they could do it, you could too. You don't realize that the people of the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense were educated men. Brother Fred Hampton had an associate's degree. In 1968, associate's degree was equivalent to a bachelor's degree today. Most people wouldn't even graduate from high school before the 60s and the 70s, and he had a degree. He had an associate's degree. And Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seals, Bobby Seals is a college professor. Angela Davis is a college professor. These people weren't just standing outside angry and not doing anything. They were educated. They had the aptitude and they had the drive to do things. Our children can have they have that same drive. They have the same aptitude and ability. What we've done is allow people to take them off the mission. The mission is to enhance our community. That's what the mission is. It is to enhance the existence of Black life in the United States of America. That's what we're going to do. Maybe we need to stop calling ourselves Black people. Maybe we need to be like people of the soul, because we were the soul of Africa. That's why Africa isn't doing what it is. They took some of the best people, and we were the soul. We are the soul of America, or the Western Hemisphere, whether you're from Brazil, Central America, the Caribbean, the United States, Canada, or Mexico. The people who look like us, we keeping it going. The number one export in the United States of America is us. So maybe we need to be the soul people, because we got soul power. Everything that's what is in the soul. We stay when we pray. We enhancing our soul, and we dig into our soul and make all these things that all of y'all use. Point blank. Period. End of story. But back to what I was talking about. You got people who are setting up things, how they trying to reinstitute slavery. Because if you have no education, whether it be academic or social education, creates hope. Whether social education, just communication with young people, not talking at them, talking to them, giving them the ideas that they need, enhancing their hope. But what you can also do is enhance their physical labor. You can be a mechanic. And guess what? You don't have to get dirty and grimy anymore, because a lot of the cars are electric. So you're just going to be able to go in there, mess around, just like you're fixing the computer at this point. And then you change tires, change things like that. Yeah, but you're not going to be dirty, grimy, filthy, and all that anymore. Yeah, so you can be an auto mechanic. And guess what? When you become an auto mechanic, after you do that so long, you might want to be an auto engineer and develop your own car. How about that? How about finding out that it was a Black man around the same time Henry Ford opened up his car company to open up his own car company? You don't know these things. There's black men own banks. There's black men who do the public defender. I mean, who had hit #1 black newspaper at one point in the United States of America, right here in Chicago, the Chicago Public Defender. And a lot of these men didn't have formal education. A lot of them did not have formal education, but which means you must put yourself in the mind of a prophet instead of a paycheck. And I don't mean a prophet by any means necessary and potentially destroying your community with nefarious activities. Profit by using the tools of the United States of America, going to SBA.com, get a small business loan, creating an opportunity for yourself, putting yourself into providing generational wealth for you and your children. How about this? Found this out last week. I've been eating this sausage my entire life. Parker House Sausage is one of the oldest black-owned businesses in the United States of America. Parker House Sausage was a staple in my house. Didn't even know I was eating a black-owned product. The joint is still on 43rd and State Street right now. Still open to this day. And guess what? We're not even paying attention to these things. People, if somebody can get, but guess what? If you let a young person understand that Parker House Sausage, one of the biggest sausage companies in at least Cook County, one of the oldest black-owned businesses in America, right here in your hometown. Well, and they've been open for more than 100 years. Do you know what the United States looked like 100 years ago? So if it can look like that 100 years ago and then a business still be sustained in 2024, how could you possibly say they ain't gonna let me? No way I can. No, but if you continue to sit by on the sideline watching the train go by, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. See, when I was younger, 40 years ago, I was a 14-year-old young man, and the hip hop culture was the scourge of the earth. Why are you dressed like that? Why you wearing them big baggy pants? Why y'all wearing suspenders on the back of y'all pants? That looks stupid. Why you spinning on your back? That's dumb. Why are you making that funny noises with the turntable? And guess what? Here we are 40 years later, and everybody and their mom and their uncle you got old men older than me trying to spin on their back still, and all this foolishness. Guess what? That came from our community. And when we teach our young people that you don't have to do anything that you don't need to do to get the riches that you want, then you'll understand that. You feed your spirit, you feed your mind, you feed your body right, and you will do the right things. But we're not teaching our children that. And you get that from institutions of higher learning. That's where you get those things. Those things are supposed to create hope, whether it be music, acting, entertaining, academics, science, what have you. Entrepreneurship. You should want to know. You should learn these things in institutions. We should be putting people who own businesses and attorneys in front of our children annually. We need more places like on the west side of Chicago. It used to be called Social Center. In the neighborhood I was raised in, it was called Olivet. That's where we saw the two stars who were from Chicago, from the hit movie Breaking, come to our neighborhood on a regular basis. We saw these people. We could reach out and touch the people who eventually became the Secretary of State, Mr. White, Mr. Jesse White. We could touch those people. Those people know our names when they see us. They know us. Now, do you know anybody as an elected official today? Can Walter Burnett walk up to you and say, "Hey, how you doing, Brian?" No, he can't. He won't. But it's because of me. And what we need to do is stop these people from just tearing our community down, got us listening to celebrities. Why are we paying attention to what Janet Jackson said? Look, dance, shake your booty, go home. I don't need to hear nothing Janet Jackson has to say. I don't need to hear, man, I appreciate LeBron James, but I don't give a damn what LeBron James has to say. I don't give a damn what Ice Cube has to say. I don't care what none of those guys have to say, because you know what? If everything goes completely to hell tonight, LeBron James, Ice Cube, Janet Jackson, Janet Jackson got a divorce from somebody and received $500 million from him. $500 million, $500 million. That was part of her divorce settlement. So guess what? If Adolf Hitler is the damn president, It's not going to affect Ice Cube. It's not going to affect any of these celebrities. Now, what we need to be doing is going to city council meetings. We need to be talking to people like that pass it down in New Orleans, who has reinstituted the Poor People Campaign, the campaign that, in my opinion, got Dr. King killed, because when you start rallying groups of people and galvanizing communities, your life are in jeopardy because those people are in power. They want to do away with you because they don't want you getting people together. But that's neither here nor there in regards to this conversation. What we have to do is put ourselves in position so our institutions could be really fully funded. We need to get they want to do away that Project 2025. I got 1,000,005 things on my mind. I'm sorry this week. Like that Project 2025, that's what I was talking about. They want to do away with federal jobs. Guess who is the #1 purveyor of federal jobs? Black folks. Black folks. You know what, man? The feds, they after you. Guess who needs officers right now? The CIA. Guess who needs agents? The FBI. Guess who needs agents? The ATF. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. They need people. But you don't know that because you're too busy trying to be a rapper or a basketball player. Guess who needs these people? These people are going to retire and get 90% of their top pay. Some of these people making $150,000, $200,000 a year. So you're going to retire with just about that same amount of money in 20 years. In 20 years. So guess what? Your son, daughter, niece, nephew, cousin, or neighbor, or friend's child, guess what they do? They go to school, and you only need a bachelor's degree to get that job. You apply for that job, you keep your nose clean, and then when you're 45 years old, you're done. You're done. You are done. You don't need to be the next LeBron James, because there's a good chance you're not going to be 6'8" tall with a 40-something inch vertical and can handle the ball and rebound. You're not going to be the next Walter Payton, because do you really want 300-pound men jumping on your back every week? No, you don't have to run and dribble and dance and sing and rap. Why don't nobody want to be the next? Why ain't nobody ever said, "I'm gonna be the next Barry Gordy"? Why nobody want to be that? Why you keep aiming at the entry level? Aim to be the boss. Be the next Lee Daniel. Be the next Tyler Perry. If you just want to be in entertainment, write things out. Create opportunities for yourself and your people. If our brother Sean Combs is guilty of the things they're accusing him of, why don't you say, you know what, he left that lane wide open. It's time for me to get in that lane. I'm going to show you how to do it with class, and I'm going to make the same amount of money. Or if you're going to be an artist, why must you get it? Oh, well, see, they're going to put me in the big time. Or you can just tour all the time and be independent, be on these festivals and make $3, $4, $5, $6, $8 million a year. And then you go home and you're nice, humble abode. Nobody really know you. You go to the grocery store, don't nobody know you. You're a millionaire. You're a multi-millionaire because you've been on the road for 6 months a year. And then you do like this rapper from Los Angeles, California. His name is Merge. He's 40-some years old, 45 years old, and he done rapping because he's been rapping for 30 years. Bam, he's done. He ain't doing no more songs. He ain't doing no more dancing. But he's doing other things to enhance his portfolio and never have to work again. This is what we need to be focusing on. And if your child just loves sports that much, maybe your child needs to be a coach. Maybe your child needs to be a general manager. Why must we always want our children to be the singing, dancing monkey? And no disrespect, man. I love the things that these people do on TV and movies and things of that nature. I just watched Michael Vick do a documentary and about the advancement of the quarterback. So I'm not saying entertainment is not an option, a viable option. What I'm saying is we don't always have to put that in our children's way. Guess what? You could be, since you want to watch TV, why don't you be George Jefferson and open 5 dry cleaners here in Chicago? Why don't you be George Jefferson and open up some grocery stores? Yeah, it's a lot of money. I showed y'all last week that it's a lot of money in grocery stores. You're talking about $25,000, $30,000 a month. Even if you got $25,000 a month in a grocery store and you put 15, if you put 15 back in, that's $10,000 a month. Do the math on $10,000 a month. Yeah, that's after. Guess what? That's profit 10,000. Because guess what? Part of that 15,000 that you spent is a paycheck for yourself. So that 10,000 profit goes into a trust, and now your children after a year, if you got 3 children, one of your children college is paid for a whole year, or you can finance a dream for your child. We have to start thinking about the future, because they are not thinking about our future. They're thinking about our demise. These people are not out here to be our friends, because if they were, they wouldn't. This is why you're allowed to do things like Project 2025, to shut down institutions of higher learning, to raise to lower the age, so you can be employed. So now you get hurt, you're permanently injured, you don't have education. These are things that Muhammad Ali talked about in the early 70s. Do not be an athlete, because it's 1,000,001 chance for you to make it. But if you be a doctor, lawyer, some form of trade, you could be done working by the time you were the age that Muhammad Ali was saying this. We must educate our children. We must not allow people to shut down schools. We're gonna give you a voucher so you can go to a private school so you can be brainwashed even further. No. You can't do away with our history in school, because without our history, we don't have no hope. Without no hope, we have no future. This is not only a mental arresting, it's mental slavery. Because then it destroys your mind. It beats you down and puts you in a position that you only think you can do crime or entertain. And we're way better than that. We're way better than that. The advent of this internet was done by a Black woman. The Ring doorbell invented by a Black woman. Granville Woods created the roller coaster. He created the walkie-talkie, which is the father of the cell phone. He did all these things. This is somebody who looks like you. Ida B. Wells was a newspaper person. The Chicago Defender, one of the biggest Black-owned newspapers in America, which inspired me and people like Roland Martin to do the things that we're doing right now. See, when you know your past, you can advance into your future. When you know your past, you can advance into your future. Point blank, period. End of story. This is why they want you in mental slavery. They want you believing it. Only way I can get up. Either you're slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. No. It was a cool line. Loved it. Rest in peace to Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Small, Christopher Wallace, or whatever you want to call them. Thug life sounds good until you behind the wall or laying in the box. It sounds good. All that stuff on these songs sound good. I love the Locks. I love Cool G Rap. I love NWA. I used to listen to all that stuff and still do from time to time. Still do it. But guess what? I had the guidance and the intestinal fortitude to step beyond that and understand that there was other people out there singing and rapping about different things. X-Clan, KRS-One, Brand Nubian, Tribe Called Quest, Ras Kass, Exhibit, and other people throughout the entire diaspora rapping about other things that presented hope. And there was a balance because the community allowed balance. You don't like what's doing, man. If you can't change the people around you, then change the people around you. That's it. If you cannot change the people around you, change the people around you. Because at this point, we are at a trade deficit. We are trading out our culture and our wonderful gifts, and we're not getting anything in return. We're not getting anything in return. It is a balanced deficit. It's a balanced trade deficit. We're giving away culture. We're giving away entertainment. We're giving away labor. And what we're getting in return is drugs, violence, nefarious activities, criminality, the closing of schools, and the dismissing of our humanity. That's why they don't treat us the way we should be treated, because they don't see us as human beings. In the very contract called the United States Constitution, you're known as 3/5 of a human being. That's why they can justify what they do to you, because you're not human. You're subhuman. You're only 3/5 of a man. You're kind of like a man. So no, that's why Michael Vick did 18 months for hurting dogs, because they respect dogs more than they respect us. But police officers shoot us down every day, every single day, misrepresent facts and criminal cases. Evidence is the word I was trying to get to. Misrepresent evidence, lie in front of us, tell us that somebody was going to throw a hot pot of water on them, and so they killed them. Last time I checked, I don't know many little bitty older women who could throw a hot pot of water 15 feet that'll scald you to death, but you still walk towards her. And you told us that you got a woman up in Minnesota running behind a man, talking about, I'm in danger, running towards a man and paralyze him the day after the George Floyd verdict. See, these are the things that are happening. Breonna Taylor, people still not going to pay for that. Sandra Bland, we don't even talk about that. Ahmaud Arbery, it took the George Floyd murder to make that thing happen. So in order for us to get justice in this country, we must first galvanize, because what we're doing is falling victim to a line in the book Machiavelli. See, a lot of us love Tupac. Machiavelli, it was the best album ever. That's a book, and it's about how to trick people into it. In the book Machiavelli, you know what Machiavelli said? He said, divide them, get them to fight each other while we go pick up the coins. That is a quote. That is actually in the book. And now we follow it. We divide, light skin, dark skin, west side, south side, fat, skinny. We argue about the stupidest thing. What is it? African descendants of slaves versus Caribbean people. And the difference in your ancestors and the people in the Caribbean is literally, we gonna colonize these people, y'all colonize those people. That's literally the difference. You think the people in Haiti get when they woke up one morning and just started speaking French, or did the French colonize that island? You had people in front of the Congress last week talking about, people are literally talking about Haiti's problem is they should have been colonized 30 more years. So we should have kept them in slavery 30 more years, and they would have been okay. And we could have solely profited off the island for an additional 30 years. They would be okay right now. Or does it have anything to do with the embargo that you made them pay since they took over, since they beat your brains out and took over the island, and then took over their half of the island? Because Haiti and the DR on the same island, they share island. Dominican Republic and Haitians share one island. So when the Haitians beat you down and sent you back, sent you with your tail between your legs, and the United States and other European controlled countries went back and said, hey, we're gonna make it real hard on y'all, and we're gonna have enforce trade embargoes and cripple your country until y'all start paying us. Or was that it? Again, if you don't know these things, you think, yeah, man, why are they still struggling? Man, why is the African country still struggling? They over there warring. You know, they over there warring because people step in, white folks step in and try to put their rules in place, talking about we're primitive. You got all your technology from us. We had indoor plumbing before y'all, we met y'all. So stop it. Guess what? Neurosurgery was a thing. If you read the hieroglyphics, neurosurgery, brain surgery, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, was a thing back then. See, we don't know these things. We don't know the greatness that comes off that continent. We don't understand that King Mansa Musa sent 70,000 people over here, and then they got lost at sea. Then when he found that they got lost at sea, he sent 140,000 people back, filled with gold. And you don't realize that he used to walk around and hand out so much money that he would change the economy of regions. You don't understand that because you were never told that. And I'm not saying, oh man, so you're dumb behind. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this: when you understand what you're up against, you know how to fight it. The only way to understand what you're up against is to know your history. And when you know your history, you know that you have a future. And when you know that you have a future, then you don't have to worry about things like what you're going to do, what's going to happen, and things of that nature. Then you can do everything you can to be as successful as humanly possible. That's the purpose of the show. Crime and punishment it should be crime and rehabilitation. We need to set the stage again, as I stated at the top of the show. If you got 10 friends that you know that live in your area, I need you to contact them and find something to complain about. Everybody has something to complain on every block and every Black community in the United States of America. If it's too much trash, you need to call your alderman, you need to call your somebody in power, alderman, state representative, precinct captain, somebody, city hall, city council, and complain about this filthy vacant lot near your house so they can come clean it out. Once they do that, then you'll understand your power. And once you understand your power, you'll understand what's supposed to happen the day after election day 2024. You start complaining and getting things changed. And then when you see how much power you have, you will move into a situation of power, and you will change the mind state that is in my community or in any impoverished community. Thank you for tuning in. I want to salute the people who inspire me: Willie D. Nori, Talib Kweli, Zoe Williams, Sway Calloway, Roland Martin, Al Sharpton, Heather B., Clay Kane, Marie Daniel Favors, Lamont King, and Greg Carr, and the great Karen Hunter. They all inspire me. They all give me information. Thank you for tuning in. This is HBB. This is the Intervention Media. I am out. See you in a few days.
We lust for that cheese, we lose sleep, dreams of that cream. We killing our teens, they down for this American dream. Them government schemes, they turning us to hustlers and fiends. We hustling trees, them politicians smuggling green. Chasing that cheese, got everybody stressed in the streets. Pardon me for speaking freely, let it breathe. Evangelists preach the congregations out of their seats. They writing them checks for ties, now it's people can't eat. She stripping for change for school, now she giving them brains. She used to that loot, she earning, now she giving them strain. He new to this game, but hungry, so he cooking his cane. He getting that paper, but then they gave him 2 to the brain. It's rules to this game, but hustlers never hustle for fame. The spirit of greed is grimy, so we struggle to change. They put us in chains to take away our African names. But if we submissive and don't resist, then who do we blame? It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim, and you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders are slain. They gave us Obama, but that nigga was hoping for change. But Zimmerman is killing niggas and he free. Shit is crazy, babies having these babies and getting checked. But keep the child from they pop to rip his heart out his chest. Our rappers was leaders and now they in the booth in the dress. Spitting bullshit and making more but giving us less. They taking our sound and changing ours, dumbing it down. They taking our jobs and homes and they shutting us out. They taking our kids because it ain't a man in the house. They locking us down, but soon they gon' be wiping us out. They told our women they was too independent to need a man. They told our brother he was too insignificant to advance. It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim, and you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders is slain. It's all a game.
The love that we have for one another is the greatest threat to the people who rule over us. And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way.